Thanks, Anna. The headlines in the southeast today. A woman found guilty of killing a toddler who'd been left in her care is handed a 17-year sentence. We'll bring you the latest from Hove Crown Court. Put the environment on the agenda. Conservationists urge politicians on the campaign trail to consider the climate.
We need to be having a proper programme in place to restore the nature that has been lost.
And we've lost the heat, but it's a bright and breezy end to the week and not too bad for the weekend either. It could be a full forecast later in the programme.
Welcome to the programme. I'm Ellie Crisell. First this lunchtime, a woman from Bexhill who was found guilty of killing a toddler who'd been left in her care has been given a 17-year sentence. Shannon Driver had claimed that 18-month-old Jackson Sirrett had slipped in the shower on the 18th of September 2020. However, in January she was convicted of manslaughter and today she was told she'll serve 12 years in jail and 5 years on licence. Our reporter Juliet Parkin is outside Hove Crown Court for us this lunchtime. Juliet, a very sad and distressing case. Tell us what you heard in court today.
Well, the court heard that Jackson had been left in the care of Shannon Driver, who was Jackson's father's partner at the time. Driver called Jackson's father to say he had fallen in the shower. He was taken to his hospital and his injuries were too severe for him to survive. He did not regain consciousness, the court heard, and his life support was later withdrawn. He was found to have multiple fractures and damage to his brain and spine. In sentencing Shannon Driver, the judge said, "You took steps to conceal the evidence. You had smoked cannabis that day. You had a history of violent offending." The judge said, "You shook or threw him so violently as to cause devastating injury. You knew," the judge added, "that you were not permitted to be unsupervised with children."
And the judge spoke about Shannon Driver's own upbringing, didn't he?
Yes, that's right, Ellie. The court heard how Driver had suffered abuse from a young age, beaten by her father, the court heard, and put into the care system from the age of 12. A childhood described as brutal and bleak, leading to mental health disorders, including PTSD. "You are considered to be highly volatile with a capacity for unpredictable violence," the judge said, and that violence, we now know, led to the death of a little boy. Well, Jackson's family did not want to speak after the sentencing today, but a statement was read out in court from his father describing his son as "my world." He said, "All I wanted was to be a good dad."
Juliet, thank you. Now, it was the biggest ever haul of illegal drugs in Sussex, and now an organised crime gang has been jailed for a total of 41 years. Cocaine and ketamine worth around £24.5 million was seized from two vans stopped on the A26 at Maresfield last summer. They'd been concealed in cardboard boxes and brought to the UK on a lorry which travelled to Newhaven Port via ferry. Our reporter Anissa Kadri joins me now. Anissa, tell us more about the investigation that led to these convictions.
Well, this very large quantity of cocaine and ketamine was shipped into Newhaven by lorry driver Pavel Budsko. He's now been given 9 years in jail. Charlotte Moore, who drove a van to pick up the drugs, got the longest sentence out of the 4 people jailed. That's 13 years. And looking at DNA, police found she had been one of those involved in attempting another overseas drugs run a couple of months before her arrest. The authorities tracked her movements and her online activity as well, and they saw her Googling cardboard moving boxes. The drugs seized this time were in 30 cardboard boxes and worth more than £24 million. And the 4 people sentenced for the largest ever seizure of drugs in Sussex, well, they've been given a total even of 41 years jail time.
Anissa, thank you. Flights in and out of Gatwick have resumed after they were temporarily stopped this morning due to a failed takeoff. An airport spokesperson said a departing aircraft stopped due to hot brakes. But in the last few minutes, that runway has reopened. Kingsferry Bridge, which connects the Isle of Sheppey to mainland Kent, will shut from tonight for more than a week for ongoing repairs. Network Rail says it's continuing work to replace steel ropes. South Eastern will run a bus replacement service throughout the closure. As polling day nears ever closer, there are concerns that not enough attention is being given to the environment in the election campaign. Conservationists and academics say the political debate centres around the NHS, the cost of living, taxes, but there isn't enough focus on the issue of climate change. Here's our environment correspondent, Yvette Austin.
Restore nature now! Restore nature now!
Marching in the name of nature. Pupils at Wellesley Haddon School in Broadstairs supporting conservationists calling for us to vote wild and for the political parties to put the environment further up the election agenda.
We need to be cleaning up our seas, cleaning up our rivers. We need to be having a proper programme in place to restore the nature that has been lost. And the children in our school are seriously concerned about the amount of nature that has been lost.
I want to see better active protection of what wild areas we have got. And I want to see farmers being really well supported to farm in a more nature-friendly way. And I want to see big companies being made to pay for the damage they're doing to our environment. I want to see these giant housing estates being built in a much more sensitive way for the environment with biodiversity features. There's so much I want to see and there's so little mention of it.
As far as agriculture is concerned, there has been discussion, but farmers feel there should be a much greater emphasis put on food production. James Smith runs a regenerative farm that focuses on the health of the soil so that it can farm in a more environmentally friendly way.
It's definitely not given a very high profile, and it's absolutely essential. I mean, the health of the population will be and is determined by the quality of the food that we eat. And so if we can work on the healthy status of our countryside and our soils and therefore our food, we'll have a healthier population and then the impact on the NHS will be reduced. So everything is interlinked.
Even climate change and all the problems it's bringing isn't at the centre of the debate, and experts in the field say it should be.
What's interesting is that the parties, especially the Conservative and Labour parties, are bringing climate in through referring to these other issues like greener energy will lower your bills, or these, going slower on net zero will lower your bills. These different messages, and they're all relating back to cost of living and jobs, really.
We have seen headline policies, though, about green energy production and the aim to stop adding to the total amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, otherwise known as net zero. But there's little detail as to exactly how some rather ambitious targets will be achieved. There will be many hoping that once the election battle is won, more attention will be given to the climate and environment for the generations to come. Yvette Austin, BBC South East Today.
And we'll be hearing what each of the political parties has to say about the environment on our programme at 6:30 tonight. And we'll continue to tell your stories, of course, on BBC Radio, TV, online in our Your Voice, Your Vote series in the run-up to polling day. Find out more through that QR code you can see there on the screen, or just head straight over to the website bbc.co.uk/Kent, Sussex or Surrey. Now, it definitely feels a little bit fresher today, but actually the weekend's not looking too bad.
Got it in one. She
Hi, John.
always does, yes. The climate is warming across the southeast, no doubt about it, but June actually has been on the coolish side, despite the fact that we had that brief burst of heat earlier on in the weekend. As Ellie says, it's a fresher feel now out there, isn't it? But not too bad. Some sunshine to be had this morning. The cloud has built up, but it shouldn't produce any rain, and that cloud will have holes in it, so there will be some sunshine through this afternoon. Temperatures, well, much for muchness, high teens, low 20s. There is quite a fresh wind coming in from the southwest, most noticeable down towards the south coast, but all in all, out of the breeze and in the sunshine, feeling quite pleasant. Pollen levels, though, very high, and of course UV levels are very high at this time of year, despite the fact the temperatures are not spectacularly high. Now, this evening, temperatures are going to go that way. It's going to turn into a chilly old night. In fact, by the early hours of tomorrow morning, we could be as low as 7 or 8 degrees, which is pretty cold for the end of June. But bags of sunshine to start your weekend, and tomorrow looks like a fantastic day. I don't think there'll be much, if any, in the way of cloud. Clear blue skies, strong sunshine, and temperatures will respond. So it'll be warmer tomorrow compared with today. We'll get as high as 24, possibly 25 degrees, probably the North Kent coast best favoured. The winds much lighter than they are today as well. I think Sunday will be a rather cloudier day, but again, it should stay largely dry. I think this is overly pessimistic. Should stay largely dry on Sunday, and actually as we head into next week, a lot of dry weather and temperatures remaining in the comfort zone. No sign of a return of that heat just yet.
Let's hope it is overly pessimistic
I think
then. Thank you for that. That's it from us. Back now to Anna with the rest of the BBC News. Bye-bye.